just so honored. Truly, I just have to take this in. I did not expect a crowd this big. Thank you for putting this together. There we go. I'm just going to get rid of this whole thing. I'm welcome to Idaho. Is that what you said? I love Idaho. I've been here a few days. I guess I couldn't have picked a better time to come. The Idaho GOP voted unanimously to pass a resolution calling for the abolition of the corrupt FBI. You guys are way ahead. They did that to influence an election, the same ones that raided our favorite president, Donald J. Trump's home in Mar-a-Lago, politically motivated raid, the same FBI that pushed Russiagate, even though they knew at the time it was a lie. It just makes me sick. And the same FBI that classifies parents at school board meetings as domestic terrorists. They're calling pro-life advocates terrorists. Traditional Catholics are homegrown terrorists now. How many of you have been to a school board meeting in the past couple of years? Okay, so we have some terrorists in the room. I guess that, you know what, they can call us whatever they want, but just make sure you call me an American loving mama bear. We don't have time for weaklings right now in the Republican Party. Yeah. The weaklings are what got us into this mess. We need people who are going to stand up and fight these powerful elites taking our tax money. And we know now that they're laundering the tax money. You all heard when we sent the $200 billion over to Ukraine that it went to protect their pensions and their border and all kinds of things in Ukraine. Meanwhile, our border, our southern border, is wide open. Our pensions are crumbling. This is absolute criminal behavior, and our politicians are doing this to us. We have more tax money going to help Ukraine than is helping America right now. And then you combine that with the rigged, stolen elections, and I think that our founding fathers had a phrase for that we knew about a little bit about back then. They knew a lot about it. Taxation without representation. That's what we have right now. They're taking our money, they're taxing us to death, they're sending it overseas to countries that are not a problem. And we don't get anything in return for it except rigged, stolen elections, which, by the way, we're paying for those as well. We are not being represented by the people that we chose to go into office, and we're being taxed to death. Something's got to give. So I tell you what I think needs to give is we need to get President Trump in there and get these criminals. I almost want to pull my hair out when I think about who Joe Biden is beholden to. That we have a man sitting in the White House, I don't even know if he knows he's there, who is bought and paid for by the CCP, the most heinous regime on the planet. They enslave their own people and do all sorts of other atrocities, and he's owned by them. So everything he does, he's doing for the CCP. That's why we have the wide open border, because they're involved with the drug trade. He's owned by Ukraine, he's owned by Burisma. He's literally, he cares more and he does more for everybody else except the American people. I kind of think that we need to have our politicians start wearing those jackets that NASCAR wears, where you know the sponsors are on them. And I think with Joe, it would say Big Pharma, probably like Pfizer, it would say the CCP. What was that? China. Yeah,
Maida.
China.
Maida.
Zelensky, Burisma. There's so many. We could go on. He might need 2 jackets, guys. I'll tell you what, the people like Donald Trump, I know what his jacket would say. It would have a big American flag and it would say, "We the people." You know what else it would say? FJB. Just a little patch. We're finding that as these blue states drive their people away with terrible policy, the people, I mean, they're victims of it and they're trying to get away, and they're finding great places like Idaho and saying, hey, we'll just move there. And we'll move to a small town. And I know that it puts strain on some of these great states like Idaho, but we have to welcome people in, and I think the people I talked to who moved here recently say, we appreciate this so much. We're not gonna let it change. We wanna be here and we don't wanna be part of the problem. Has anybody heard that new song, that new country song? If you haven't heard it, you gotta check it out, but it sounded like everybody's heard of it. It's called Try That in a Small Town. And I think we all know exactly what he's talking about. For anybody who hasn't heard that, it's a very stern message, basically to the Antifa thugs, to the BLM Marxists who are burning down buildings, robbing businesses in broad daylight, terrorizing innocent people, destroying cities, truly from the East Coast, New York and DC, all the way over to the West Coast, Portland and Seattle and everywhere in between. Try that in a small town, and if you do, we might just say that's the last thing you're gonna try. Yeah. We're not gonna have our homes torched, we're not gonna have our businesses torched, we're not gonna be victims of this violence on our streets. They want us to be victims. You saw the subway situation where that brave man stood up to protect somebody being attacked on the subway, and he ends up the one in trouble. It's upside down. Our world is upside down. They don't want us protecting our families, and that is exactly where the radical left wants us. They want us to feel hopeless. They want us divided. They want us reliant on the government. And that's not why our country was made. That's not what America's about. This is an agenda that is going to destroy our country. When President Trump says the media is the enemy of the people, he means it. They've been lying to us. They've been lying to us. But I will tell you, I remember in Coeur d'Alene, I was watching, I think it was June of 2020, when the looting was starting to kind of head into Coeur d'Alene. And that was, you all know what happened, right? I was really rooting for Idaho. I saw these patriotic, big, strong men, residents, citizens, protecting the businesses of that town. They had their AR-15s, and they were basically saying to these looters coming through town, you know what, go ahead, we dare you. Try that in a small town, not gonna work out here. Were 4 years ahead of Jason Aldean. Maybe he got that idea for the song from Idaho. Starting to think that. You're full of common sense, Constitution-loving citizens, and that's what I love about Idaho. Who would have thought in the past that it would be, I thought it would be weird, you would have thought in the past to have a withered up old pervert in the Oval Office sniffing children, Joe Biden. We would have thought that was weird in the past, but not anymore because that's what we have. It would have been odd to have somebody who can't form complete sentences a heartbeat away from the White House, Kamala Harris. But not anymore. It would have been absolutely ludicrous to have an overweight, middle-aged pediatrician in charge of the United States Public Health Service just because Richard Levine woke up one day and decided he wanted to be a woman. Right? He's in charge of our health. And you would have been off your rocker to put a mayor who couldn't even fill potholes back in South Bend, Indiana, in charge of our transportation, simply because he's gay. Has anybody traveled lately? By the way, travel is a mess. Air travel is a mess right now. Every time I travel and every delay, I say, okay, thanks, Mayor Pete. I wonder if he's even on the job. I mean, someone needs to check and see if he's still on maternity leave. Because the transportation's not going well. But the left wants to put people in these critical positions, not based on their ability, not based on what they bring to the table, based on these very odd parameters that mean nothing, that are not important. We are living on planet crazy, and I simply want off. I want off planet crazy. One more example that's really out of this world is you would have thought it would be silly to put a gender-fluid luggage thief with a dog fetish in charge of the country's nuclear arsenal. Okay? But they did that with Sam Brinton. Thankfully, I think they did fire him. Okay. So we're You know, we got these candidates who didn't campaign, they didn't have policy, because they know they don't have to. And if we don't stand up and fight for election integrity, we're going to get thousands more John Fettermans, Katie Hobbs, and Joe Bidens. They're going to end up in places of power. One of my favorite quotes is, those who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities. Right? And that's really scary, because that's what comes next if we don't turn this ship around. We put together the greatest policies to get Arizona out of the mess it's in. And they said, uh-oh, we gotta stop this one, because we don't control her, we can't bribe her, we don't own her, and she's gonna do exactly what she says, which is on day one, and start securing that border. We're gonna finish Trump's wall, we're gonna stop the narco-terrorists, and we're gonna, by the way, at the same time, reform our elections. And they said we can't have her. And that's what they did. I don't know if you know what happened in Arizona. They had a lot of shenanigans up and leading up to, we vote for a month in Arizona, by the way. So they did a lot of shenanigans up to election day, but they said, holy cow, there is going to be a flood of people showing up on election day. How do we stop them? And they rolled out broken machines that didn't work in 60%, 59% polling locations. The people showed up in droves, and immediately at 6 a.m. the lines were blocks long. And the poll workers came out and said, our equipment doesn't work, nothing's working. The machines don't work. When people waited in line for 2 hours, they got a ballot that printed out that was the wrong image, intentionally printed on the ballot. Can you imagine how awful of a person you have to be to plan an election like that? And these people then put their ballot into the tabulator and it got spit out. 250,000 times, like 250,000 ballots got spit out unreadable on election day. And they were told, don't worry, just put it in this drawer, drawer 3, and we'll count it down at the county. Some people even were told to put their ballots in a garbage bag. You know, I mean, they might as well, because I really think that's what happened. They didn't get counted. They used the wrong software on the election. They broke into the machines and broke the seals and put new memory cards. I mean, they cheated 1,001 ways. And maybe I should be flattered. We had such a landslide coming that they had to cheat in broad daylight. But then the fact that they thought that we would walk away from this fight, and they just messed with the wrong woman. I'm going to do everything in my power to see to it that a man named Donald J. Trump gets back in the White House. We got a major cleanup project to do after Joe Biden, because the Democrat Party they're just full of unserious people that have led our country through these really serious, horrible times. And they don't know how to lead us out, because I don't think they want to lead us out. I really think they want the end of our country. They're incompetent, and you've heard that old proverb, when a clown moves into a palace, he doesn't become a king. The palace becomes a circus. And that's what's happened in the White House. Have you noticed this, all the corruption? We've got this corrupt clown who's got an obsession with sniffing people's hair. And they want us to believe he's somehow the most popular candidate in the history of our country. Someone said it, clown world. It feels like clown world. Give me a break. 81 million votes my ass. I'm not from Idaho, but I am from Iowa, and I was born with common sense. And they want us to check our common sense, check our logic, check our intelligence, and believe that a guy who didn't leave his basement, could barely speak, didn't have a campaign office, couldn't attract a crowd of 4 people, somehow lost to 17 out of 18 bellwethers, only won 16% of the counties, and most of those were counties that cheated. They want us to believe he somehow won 81 million votes, the most votes in the history of this great nation. Give us a break. And so we need to get him out of office. The great mockery of the White House. I can't even believe it. Some of the stuff I've seen that they've done. I mean, I saw topless transgender people flashing their fake breasts on the White House lawn. What an insult to this great nation. Men wearing women's clothing, making a mockery of femininity, dancing around the halls of the West Wing. I'm a woman, as I said, I'm from a family of 8 girls. I'm a mother, and those guys will never be women. They're never, I don't care how they dress, you're never going to be a woman. These are if I let a bunch of mentally ill men take womanhood away from us. Did you see they found cocaine at the White House? I wonder, who could that belong to? It puzzles the mind. I mean, where would that come from? Any guesses, guys? I will say, I don't believe that it belongs to Sleepy Joe. I think he earned Sleepy, and they didn't name him Fidgety Joe. They named him Sleepy Joe. But I really do believe that, I always see Hunter, he's always got that bag on him, and nobody else can touch that bag in his back. And we've got a drug addict living in the White House, pretty much, being driven around by Secret Service, and really denigrating the history of the White House, the history of our country. These people are squatters sitting in the White House. They didn't win. Can you imagine had this happened under President Trump? First of all, we'd still be talking about it. The news would still be talking about it. If Don Jr. brought drugs into the White House. I was actually with Don Jr. last week, and he said, my dad would have sent me to Gitmo. He's a funny guy, by the way. I'm blessed to have developed a great friendship with President Trump, and I've gotten to know his family. I will tell you this, they are the greatest family. It sickens me that for 8 years, they've had a slander campaign forced on that family of just complete fabricated lies. And this is why I always tell people when I go out and speak, don't listen to the news at all. Don't even let me, and I know I fall for it every once in a while. I see a great headline and I go, oh my gosh, there must be just a sliver of truth there. I'm here to tell you, they aren't even putting a sliver of truth in these stories anymore, okay? Because they've written a lot about me, and I read them and I go, okay, what are they trying to say here? Literally, I read through the story and I go, there's not one fact in there. There's not one bit of truth in that story. And so every time we click it, we give them a little bit of money. And I don't think we want to give them money or our attention. And it's going to get really ugly in the next year. You know they're going to come after President Trump. I think he can handle it, but they're going to come after him. And so we got to be strong and not succumb to that fake news media as they try to tear this man down again. He has done more for this country than almost anybody I can think of. Let's think about it. He helped create the strongest military in our nation's 247-year history. Greatest economy that any of us have ever seen. He brokered peace in the Middle East. Historic tax cuts, even better than those that Reagan gave us. Nobody thought that was even possible. He made us energy independent. Actually afford to heat the house and put gas in the car without putting like a second mortgage on the house. He secured the border. He had that border so secure. I've been covering Arizona for 27 years. I've never seen it more secure. He knew exactly what to do. We didn't have the fentanyl pouring in at the time. He kept people out who were coming here illegally while having a normal, healthy, legal immigration program. And then on day one, Joe Biden came in and he tore that back. And he exposed us to the biggest invasion our country has ever seen. It's an invasion. We're being invaded as we speak. And I'm not okay with Arizona being the pipeline for deadly fentanyl, killing our young generation. And we gotta shut that down. And we need to do it. He is the first president in modern memory that not only did not start a single new war, he spent his first term ending decades-long wars across the planet. Trump is not just a truth teller, he is a peacemaker. And that's what we the people want. We want the truth and we want peace. And we can have that. And we want to secure America. And that's why I'm going to do all that I can to help him get back into office and make sure that we get out and tell what he's going to do to turn things around. Because Joe Biden has got us completely off the rails, in the ditch, and we're about to go off a cliff. My question for you is, how many would like to see President Trump back in the office? I can't wait to tell him about Idaho. I texted him the other day, I said, you gotta come to Idaho, this place. My suggestion was that he go to, you might be mad, Boise, I was suggesting he goes to Coeur d'Alene. They did in Pickens, South Carolina, and they had a boat rally at the same time. It's a perfect time for that. We have three choices right now. We have a fast sprint off a cliff into communism and globalism with Joe Biden and the Democrats. We have a little bit slower sprint off a cliff with these other guys who are controlled by the same old rhinos like Paul Ryan, Karl Rove, you know, all the usual suspects. They're going to drag us back to what we've escaped from. Or we have a choice to take the one man who's going to stand in that gap and put an end and stop communism from spreading across this country. And that's what we're doing. 56 men who signed the Declaration of Independence. They were signing their death warrant. Can you imagine the fear of signing that? I mean, if you really think about what was going on in our country, we were being controlled by tyrants, the biggest tyrant ever, the biggest, worst globalist, the original globalist, King George, and by signing their name, and it was so risky. Many of them lost everything. They could have died. Many of them did die, but they signed that document. George Washington was assembling his forces in New York. They worked together. They fought to create this country and fight back those globalists. And we're going to fight, in my opinion, just like that right now. Players are a little bit different, but we're going to fight about saving America or losing her to globalism, which is just a fancy word for communism. And I'll tell you what, just as John Hancock and John Adams and Thomas Jefferson and the rest were fulfilling their role in Philadelphia, every single one of those men, nearly 250 years ago, stepped up to the plate. And they stepped into that role that God put them here for. I'm sure their hand was shaking as they dipped that pen into the ink and signed their name. I'm sure their hearts were racing. I'm sure they laid awake at night, scared to death. But God gave them the courage to get through that. And they were placed here at that moment in history for a reason. I believe just as they were placed here 247 years ago for a reason, each and every one of us, I'm talking every one of us, was placed here at this pivotal moment in our country's history. And we have God-given skills. Every one of us has something we can do to help save this country. And he placed us here at this moment, and rather than being afraid, rather than feeling beat down, rather than feeling like, I can't do this anymore, we need to wake up every morning, get our feet firmly on the ground, and say, thank you, God, for putting me here at this moment. The fact that you're out here on a Friday night, the fact that you're working so hard and you're working to make sure that we restore each state to its greatness, and our country to our greatness, that you are in this with me. So I know you're with me. I can't even believe that welcome, by the way. Every time I go somewhere, I go, okay, that was the best welcome. This was the best welcome I ever had. stud muffins, our founding fathers, in each and every one of us. And it's up to each and every one of us to go out there for the next year and 3 months and do everything we can to preserve this country. Protect and defend this shining city on the hill, America. Let's make this next year one that we don't waste a single day. Let's make it one where we register people to vote, where we talk to people who don't agree with us, where we explain to them what we need to do to put America back on track. Let's make every single day and moment count for the next year and 3 months, and let's save America. Thank you, Idaho. I'm going to do it.